So changing the bolts is called a certified repair, because now, in lieu of a load test, you've done a certified, verifiable repair to the fire escape. And there's your two options. You always have both in your pocket. You tell the people, you get this fire escape fixed and have your engineer convince me that you're doing a certified refurbishment of this fire escape, and I want a document that says so with no disclaimers. Or, if we're getting this wishy-washy kind of play, do whatever you have to do, but then at the end I'm going to order a load test. Because I'm not being convinced by your side that you've done everything possible for me to not order a load test. So let's see who inspects fire escapes. Nationwide, the code is very clear. Engineers. Sometimes they say specifically structural engineers, but every now and then they say a PE. Number two, in some states they'll allow architects. Not every state, but some states are allowing architects. Some places and some people believe city officials inspect fire escapes. You guys were just here last week, you walked through and you said there was nothing wrong with them. Why am I all of a sudden finding things? So we say city officials do not inspect fire escapes. They identify violations. And as long as you write the correct violation, repair it, paint it, test it, you're good. Fire escape inspectors. Well, let's see how many licenses are out there. There's currently 2 licenses that touch fire escapes. There's one out of Boston, it's called a G3 license, and it says right on the code that structural engineers and or others can sign off on that fire escape. So we got vendors that have a G3 license that now can also sign off on their own work. Any problems with conflict of interest there? We also have, Boston will allow me to sign fire escapes. And by the way, I signed for all of the Harvard University fire escapes. I signed every single one. There's not a structural engineer involved in that. So, but there's a license out of Boston issued by the building department. But Chelsea, which is the sister city right next door to it, doesn't accept the G3 license. They want a structural engineer. So every city says structural engineer and or others acceptable to the building official. So if the city official doesn't accept it, only a structural engineer will do it. Now, the other license I hold and carry comes out of California. It's out by the fire department. It's called a Reg 4. And I have to pay $1,000 for just the privilege of applying for it. I have to have pass a 100-question test with at least an 80 plus. Then I have to do a visit with a fire marshal and sit there and talk about fire escapes and how great I am at doing fire escapes. Then I have to go out to a site with that same fire marshal and do a full walkthrough inspection on the fire escape and show my great abilities. Then I have to fill out the paperwork that they give us and fill out correctly, and then they'll issue me a license in which I can renew it every 3 years for half the fee. 2 licenses. So I can drive in Massachusetts and I can drive in California. Can I drive in Rhode Island? The laws are very clear. Structural engineers or others acceptable to the building official. So what does any inspector have to, even if he's just an architect or a fire escape inspector, he has to work with each individual city and make them feel comfortable that they're properly licensed. Otherwise, what the norm is, they say, yeah, I'm comfortable with you, but I need you to back it up with a structural engineer from the area. It's easily done. Okay? Because sometimes you got fire escape inspectors that are smarter than, and have more experience than structural engineers. Yet you guys are only saying only structural engineers, and sometimes these guys don't touch fire escapes. Fire escapes are the trash can of their industry. It's 6 times the work, 1/6 the pay. People don't pay thousands of dollars to have their fire escape inspected. So when you force somebody to go out and get a structural engineer to inspect their fire escape and they're pounding the phones, guess what they're getting? I don't do that. I don't do that. I don't do that. And guess who they call back? They say, hey, you wrote me a violation. I can't find anybody to inspect. So we'll cover that today. This fire escape, I haven't even started teaching you what to look for, but must be structurally sound, must be kept painted. Just on the paint side, this fire escape has to fail. So you say that it needs a paint job, right? And you write this violation, repair, paint, test. You haven't even walked on it, but you will never write scrape and paint this fire escape. Always write repair, paint, test. Because today I'm going to teach you that the way a fire escape rusts is not from the outside in. This fire escape, all steel, all bridges rust from the inside out. So if I can prove that today to you, that it took 25 years for all this paint to blow away from this fire escape, and it didn't blow away from the outside in, it blew away from the inside out. I will prove that today to you, not because I'm saying it, because a metallurgist used it in a court case, right? You now, when you look at a fire escape that's this rusty, and that's the same fire escape, that's an indication that somebody has not touched it for how many years?
At least 25.
At least 25, and the rust started in a connection, so now every connection in this fire escape, every joint is suspect. Who's gonna prove whether or not it's suspect? Is it you? Is it Joe the welder? Or is it the structural engineer? Or you can scrape and paint this whole thing. Can I do load tests on this? And then prove it that way? Right? So if all of a sudden somebody doesn't want to fix any of these bolts, and they just want to paint it, then just order a load test. They're great. Load test all the platforms, load test all the stairs, with engineer oversight. I'll be happy with that. And in 5 years' time, I want to do it again. So, structurally, does this fire escape pass or fail in your mind? Just walking up to it, you're like, is there anything dangling or? Pass or fail structurally, you think. You think in your opinion that it would pass or fail a structural exam? Fail, right? So, we were called by the secretary of this because she got a report from an engineer. And the engineer wrote a report. And he had 4 bullets. He said, fix 1 tread, unbend 1 piece of platform, and secure a door. Then give it a full paint job, and I'll sign off on this. Oh, then he has this little disclaimer that says, whatever I didn't see, can't help. So to the best of my information, knowledge, and belief, the fire escape is in conformity to the code and has been kept painted. Can you grab that guy in the future? It's an opinion. So in the United States for 75 years, you've been getting opinion tests. Yet I come in, I do my inspection, look at all the rust, falling treads, eaten steel, every joint compromised, and this is a 8-story building. And the only reason this came to attention is because there was a lockout of some kind, and a police officer responded to a break-in at this door, I believe, and he fell through one of the stairs. Fort Lee, New Jersey. Was, believe it or not, this is the building. Fort Lee used to be the Hollywood of the East back in the days of silent movies. And this was a silent movie warehouse. It's now a warehouse. But Fort Lee was a big silent movie center, the East Coast Hollywood. So this is this here to say that fire escape services is better than this engineer? No, there's no standard. This is called a fly-by, drive-by. People call, hey, I need a certificate, I need a certificate, I need a certificate. Yeah, $300 to $500. Drive by, look out the window, roll the window down, look out. You got my $300 to $500 check, great. Just to the best of my information, knowledge, and belief, fire escape services sound has been get paid. Here's what your fire marshal needs. Thank you very much for that check, and it's a drive-through. 75 years of that. But now you say, no, before you go, fill out this, thanks for the opinion letter. And then you send them back out, this industry standard confidence test, and say, can you fill that also? Oh, I don't fill out any forms that are not, government forms. Oh, no. Then just read the questions and answer all these questions on your letterhead. And when he starts reading this, he goes, well, I really didn't check all those things, and there's some things in here that I won't sign, and some things I will, because some of these are statements. And one of the ones here is that every connection on the fire escape has no internal rust or rot, and I didn't do that on this one. So you give somebody a standard form they have to fill out, things start changing. And that's what we'll talk about. Industry standard, confidence tests, tags. So a couple of confidence tests that exist out there. This is the confidence test from LA. You want to go online, go to most likely la.gov, go to their confidence testing under fire prevention and download one of their forms. And here it is. This form has a place for the owner's information, what kind of things you're testing, what's some general description, and the best part of it down here is give me the fire marshal, the building inspector, and anybody involved in the review of this fire escape gets put in their information. The engineer's name, the fire inspector, the building inspector. This is our form that we generated from that. So I kept, first page, and I said, okay, I put in my checklist items and, the place for the fire inspector, building inspector, and everything here. And then I created a second page. Because right forward it didn't have, specific questions. So I added specific questions. I added a structural part and I added a general part. The general is about the paint job and working pieces is a single action requiring no special knowledge. The number one is all the rust gone internally? Have you verified that this thing's connected back to the building? How'd you do that? Are all the cantilevers balanced and they drop 2 to 3 feet per second and when they hit the ground and stay down? It's not a lot of questions. So from that, and all these questions, and again, we were called into Seattle, we taught a class just like this because 4 guys fell off a building from the 3rd floor. Anybody die? What's everybody doing? Suing everybody. You know who got sued? Seattle. You know why Seattle got sued? Because they accepted what? Nothing. So if you're accepting nothing, guess who gets dragged in every time somebody gets hurt? Because they're going to ask, what's the standard in your city? And if your city is, we don't do anything, well, great. Then you're part of the problem. You get sued along with everybody else. But if you start having tags and you start having confidence tests, okay, these things are going to change. So what came up? Well, we taught a class actually in Seattle and Tacoma. This is a copy of the Tacoma test. Looks similar? First page? Looks similar? Questions and answers? Right here, second page? Tacoma went better, which we liked. Aside from having yes/no questions, which really scares the hell out of most inspectors and structural engineers, because these are statements now that you're making. Tacoma did the annual checklist. I said, man, what a great idea. Not only do we have structural engineers every 5 years showing up, we make these people inspect their own building every year, because you look at their building every year. So when you come do your walkthrough, what do they have to give you? This walkthrough paper, right? As part of your yearly walkthrough. And where do you wait for them? Do you walk through the fire escape with them, or do you go downstairs and around the back and wait downstairs? Say, hey, we're done with our complete examination. I need the fire escape walkthrough checklist from you. I'm going to go in the back alley. I need you to start at the 5th floor and walk all the way down, operate all the systems, and release the cantilever and show me this thing in action. It's called the yearly checklist. Oh, there's huge questions they ask. Bolts and supports are not damaged. Paint's in good condition, and all moving parts are operable. Sign here. 3 questions. So now you're putting responsibility back on the owners to give you this checklist. And now you're inspecting, so it's a checklist item. So for 5 years, you get checklists, and whose lives are you putting on the line? Yours or theirs? And then every 5 years, you have a structural engineer give you a critical examination. This is what the tags look like in Seattle. They're 19 inches wide, 9 inches tall. Our tags are, we suggest, and let's take a look at tags while we're at it. Go to the tag page. Our tags are pretty simple, 8.5 by 11. You can print these up in your own office, because you guys are going to print yellows and reds. You'll never print out whites. And these tags are not a fire escape inspection. These tags are nothing but the fact that you've identified a fire escape that currently has no tag, and you can only leave during all your. You're not going to go looking for fire escapes. It's not a fire escape hunt. You're going to be on this building doing your normal day-to-day inspections, and you just happen to turn around and you see another building that has a fire escape, and all you're going to do is take out one of your tags that you have that you run through a plastic machine, the laminators, with 3-hole punch with your zip ties, and you're just going to walk up to that fire escape, and it has a place here for you to fill out your information, but it says right at the top. Anybody reading this that sees that this is my building and I get there, it says, number 1, the first thing you do, contact fire official. Number 2 is have fire escape inspected, and number 3 is have it serviced and or load tested. Pretty simple, right? You haven't even wrote a violation, you've just identified a fire escape. So you write down 1 Main Street, you zip tie a tag to it, and you go home and start your process, because you're going to send them through the computer a request for what? Are you ordering a load test, or are you requesting one? You're requesting the most current inspection that they have. And they usually say to you, what? What inspection? So that request for an inspection turns into a violation for not having what? Properly maintained your fire escape over time. And if you happen to be there when you look at this fire escape, are they going to be pristinely painted, or are they going to fail one of the 2 requirements? Must be structurally sound, must be kept painted. It's in all the codes, right? So what's the one they always fail? Paint. So what kind of, you write a violation that says? Repair, paint, test. They're going to call you up and say, and this is 30 days later, because you just tagged it today, Then you went to your office, and then the computer has this mailing process that sends things out, and it's about 30 days later. Or you will get a phone call because I walked up to my building and I got a yellow tag that I've never had there before. But you know who called me and told me about it? My tenant. Because the thing that says fire escape has deficiencies. My tenant, who usually pays me my rent religiously, says, dude, that fire escape is how my children get out. How come it's not how come it says it has deficiencies? Can I hold my rent? If my fire escape has deficiencies? So somebody calls me up and says, I'm holding my rent until you fix this thing, because this is the only way I get out. So I call you right away and say, hey, I got this tag. My letter hasn't even arrived in the mail. I say, why'd you write me up? I say, oh, glad you called. I need a copy of the most current fire escape confidence test that you have on this, your record of maintenance. Do you have any exam? Give me your last exam. By the way, minimally, I'm going to ask you to scrape and paint it. Minimally, because I got that. I'm not even talking about anything structural but the violation I'm going to write is going to say repair, paint, test. But do you have any evidence of maintenance? No, I don't. Great, then this is actually a violation now, and you write them a violation. So you're doing your normal day-to-day business, and as you trip over these fire escapes, just put a tag on it. When you have pre-plans, when you guys are out doing pre-plans in downtown, and they're at this building doing pre-plans, and this is your line guys, and then all of a sudden they turn around and they identify on 72 Tremont Street a fire escape on the back, because they're on the back of a building looking at the back of another building, and they know that that's 72 Tremont. Those line guys now speak with the captain or whoever's the training guy there, say, hey, fire escape, 72 Tremont. From there, the only thing they need to tell you is, does it look painted or not? And is there anything dangling? They're called fire escape spotters. So they tell the captain, and the captain sends it to fire prevention. That's it. So now you got a bunch of extra eyeballs out there, and their job is just to identify fire escapes. Did it have a tag or not? No tag. Great. I'll take it from here. So they're not doing anything different other than spotting fire escapes and passing it on to the captain. The captain passes it on to you. This thing keeps going. Permits in the city. Somebody's pulling a permit. The first question is, issue the permit. Get it going. Trying to close the permit, they say, hey, by the way, do you have an internal or external means of egress as your secondary means? I'll think mine's external. Okay, before you can close this permit, because I know you're changing a light bulb in the kitchen and you're changing a pipe in the bathroom, before I can close this permit, I need a current certificate on that fire escape. Make sure you bring it with you, otherwise I can't close this permit. I'm renting an apartment building, and I need a smoke detector sign off. And you guys come in, because I can't occupy until you give me my smoke detector sign off. What's the next checklist item that's part of my smoke detector sign off? A request for a current copy of the certification. Can you hold off that sign off? No. Somebody knows their laws. You can't hold back. Okay, you're right. But you're still going to write the violation anyway. But at least it's a thing. I need a copy. Okay? And they like, oh no, I need the guy in by tomorrow. Okay, well then, here it is. Here's your thing, but you better have it. I need somebody calling me saying that you're inspecting this thing within the next 3 days. Otherwise, I'm going to get these people out of this. I'm not going to allow the occupancy. You know what I'm saying? Because they don't have a second means of egress that's certified. Now, in the middle of the night, your guys are showing up on a smoky night, and they see a white one. And this is stuff that you can see from the ground. It tells you the date that it was inspected, when the next inspection date is. They're looking for color. They're not looking for dates and time and who did it, right? White means what? The fire escape is certified. Yellow or red means what? Yellow is basically all you're going to be shooting out, because God forbid you put a red one. You know what a red one means? Vacate the building, fire watch, issuance immediately of scaffolding, because they don't want to fix the fire escape. Scaffold it so that they can have a full staircase to the building. Otherwise, vacate your building. So these are the tags that are out there right now in use. Rust. You know, rust is basically between two pieces of steel that were never primed. Rust starts, when you build a piece of a rail, a piece of tread, or a piece of support, when you get 20-foot length from the mill, those things come primed. And when we put them together by welding them, bolting them, or riveting them 75 years ago, did we pre-prime them before we joined them together? Then when we seal this tread, this railing, this support in paint, And then if anybody has ever put a torch to a piece of steel, a piece of copper, doesn't it look like it's sweaty? Like it, you put it in, it goes, and it looks like the moisture just dries right out of it. Steel has that every day. Every day it sweats. Gets moisture in it and moisture out of it, moisture in it. So if I got a piece of a tread, a rail, and it starts to sweat in between two naked pieces of steel that got joined together at a factory, what's the only thing it needs in order for you to grow rust? What's the two things you need? Air and water. So do I have any water inside that connection currently if the thing is sweating? Yes. Do I have any air if it's painted and sealed? No. So until the air gets there and you've encapsulated the connection, you don't got any rust. How long does paint last? You buy a can of Rust-Oleum, painting a piece of steel. How long does it last before you have to fully repaint it? 5 years? 10 years? Or 25 years? It says right on the can, 7 years. 5 to 7 years, depending what side of the building you put it on. So how many people you know that have had fire escapes for 75 years have been religiously repainting it 100% every 5 to 7 years? And that's with today's technology. Imagine the technology back then was basically, gooseberry dyes and some linseed oil as they were using as paint. But so do you think at any time in the past 75 years that these fire escapes have been cracking and exposing air to that moist joint that needs in order to stop rusting? And then as soon as the rust splits the paint at that joint, what's it start doing to the paint next to it? Gets under and flakes it. Gets under and flakes it. So with that, where does rust come from? From the outside in or from the inside out? So when you go to a fire escape that looks, it's all brown, most of the paint is missing. How many years it took to do that? 25 years. Where did it start? Inside. Is every one of those connections suspect? Do you know which one? Who's going to tell you? The engineer. So that's why you always write repair, paint, test. This is a facility, detention center for kids 17 and younger. So if your detention doesn't get you, coming out of the fire escape might. But look at all that rust at a detention center. This is schools. This is platforms. It takes to grow a 1/4 inch of rust on a tread takes 25 years. To grow 1/2 inch, almost 50 years. How many years did it take to grow this piece? Now, your problem is as you guys keep walking up and down these 75-year-old fire escapes, which you're not going to do that anymore, unless it has a white tag. You'll have more than enough information when you open up the windows to look out. We're going to teach you how to look at connections, and from the ground, you're going to look up looking for original hardware and evidence of rust in all the connections, right? That's all you need to see to write your violation. But the problem with you guys in the middle of the night when you're going up and down stair treads is how you fall. If you're going up the stairs and you fall through a set of stairs, you're going to fall backwards and do what to your knee? Bend it, break it, or, hurt it. But if you're going down a set of stairs and your foot goes through the stairs and you snap your knee forward, is that life-changing for you? Career-ending? So this is what's happening out there in connections that are out there. These little silent hand grenades are waiting for you and your men, either during fires or during inspections. And this is what happens. This is a 3-pound hammer test. Good pound? Oh, okay. Good pound.
Okay, I think that's it. Let's get up.
Okay, that was a 3-pound hammer. Most of you will exert that force or more just going down a stair and just stepping on the left side and on the right side, just going down. That hammer test is not a fire escape inspection. That hammer test is a safety inspection as we're walking up these things to find hidden hand grenades. Because we pound the hand grenade and see if it'll blow up. And did that one blow up? And did he want to continue? He doesn't have to. He's got enough evidence. Even if it's 10 stories, he has enough evidence to show lack of maintenance, original hardware, and what's the answer? We've got to totally refurbish the fire escape. We're done with the inspection. We don't need to go back up and identify every little one. If he's got no hex head bolts anywhere, it's already, we already know, from the ground we already know the issue. Oh, sorry. Let me go back to this one. Cantilevers. See this cantilever right here? See this cantilever right there? See this one right here? They have one thing in common. They're out of balance. I'm going to tell you how cantilevers work. And they call it a release mechanism. They have a release arm on them. It's called a release cantilever. Release ladders and release cantilevers. So when you release them, what are they supposed to do? They're supposed to drop. Drop at 2 to 3 feet per second. Hit the ground and stay down. Does that just make sense? Now, if they don't go down and you got to assist it or you push it down and it comes back up with yourself by itself, does that make sense?
No.
So when I got a ladder like this and I'm in the center of town and I got nosy fire inspectors or building inspectors, if you walk by my building and it looked like this or it looked like this, will you write me up on something? If it starts pointing to the sky, does it even look logical for it to be doing that? So I don't want any attention from you guys. So I go to Home Depot because I called the guy to say, hey, how much to rebalance my cantilever, this thing here? Oh, it's a couple $1,000. Oh, really? So I'm gonna go to Home Depot and get me some $25 worth of chain, because I don't wanna get a write-up. So I take a chain and I tie it back here and I pull it up and I tie it anywhere I can to make it do what? Go horizontal. So if you see a chain on a cantilever, what's it there for? And it's tied off to a flagpole. It's always going to be tied off to some crazy thing, and it looks like a tie, and there was a bolt. It doesn't look original to the construction of the fire escape. So every fire escape that you remember in your head that's in your downtown that has a chain on it, it's a out of balance fire escape. Now, I'm going to tell you how the normal procedure is for a woman and a child coming down during a fire. This is a little story. You come down the fire escape, and right now, let's say it's out of balance and it's a little bit tilted backwards. The woman's 150 pounds and she has a 50-pound child dragging her behind her, right? Does she usually put the child in front or behind her? Most mothers. Going down a set of stairs.
Behind her.
Behind her, so she's dragging this little kid who's screaming because there's a fire. The mom's got out. If they're scared as it is, they go down, they get on the cantilever, and they walk out 1 or 2 stairs, and this thing's out of balance, weighted backwards. Does it go down? No. She goes out 3 to 5. Does it go down? It'll start. She's already, 3 to 5 is already out here somewhere. And then she does 1 or 2 more steps, and then what happens? She starts coming down at 2 to 3 feet per second, or 5 to 10 feet per second. 5 to 10. And as it starts coming down, what does she do? She locks up. She screams, the child screams, and then all of a sudden it violently hits the ground, and then what happens?
The kid goes.
Well, the kid's behind her. One possibility is she's gonna catapult out, and what happens to the kid? Back up. But she holds on. She holds on, and then all of a sudden she walks down the rest of the cantilever, dragging her kid who's screaming now, and this 150-pound woman steps off the last tread with her kid behind her, and what happens? Goes back up. What happens to that kid?
Airborne.
Airborne. But that kid holds on. I'll make this a tragic story. You guys want to start having, you guys have seen too many things. So the kid holds on and screaming. 12 feet up. These are all 12 to 14 feet up in the air. Why? So trucks don't hit them. 12 to 14 feet up in the air. The child is screaming on the tip of the cantilever, and is it coming down with a 50-pound child there?
Nope.
Nope. So the mother says what to the kid? Jump. Will the kid jump 4 feet to a mother's arms?
Nope.
So 12 feet, the kid's screaming, the mother's screaming, jump, 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 and the kid's crying, the mother's crying, the firemen haven't arrived yet, nobody's there, and you've got a fire in the building that she just got out. She's self-evacuated only to find herself trapped by the very thing that started the whole process, right? So she's sitting there, jump, 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 and she says, you know what? You don't think this mother will just go back into a burning building to save her child, would you? Yeah. So the mother starts running for the front door. Do you have the keys to the front door? No. So she starts running to the front door, and she's screaming and yelling. She's trying to get in. She'll kick that door down to get in. But just then, guess who shows up? You guys do. You're like, hey, what are you doing? My kid. And she's screaming and crying. You guys, oh no, we got it, we got it. And you guys go back there, and you go up there, and where's the kid? For you.
Went back inside.
12 feet up. No, the kid didn't go back. Kids will sit there and they'll scream and yell, and then you're telling the kid to do what?
Jump.
Jump! And the kid didn't jump for his mother, he's gonna jump for you. So you run, all this time's ticking, right? Also, you run back to your truck and you get the pole. You do what?
Hook it and
hook
pull
it,
it down.
and you pull it down. That's how it's supposed to work, right? That's how fire escape cantilevers are designed, for firemen to operate them and pull them down? Right?
That's not the way it's designed.
No.
So obviously somebody, it's not working correctly, but you use what you had, and you pull it down, and the kid, reunited with the mother, self-evacuates, continues with the process. You put your foot on it to do what? To hold it there. Why? Because who needs to get back in the building now? The other 6 guys that came with you. So now you've got a guy that is now a foot stop, doing what to the cantilever? Just hold it there. And 5 guys now fight the fire, not 6. And depending who that guy is that started it, he might have to swap out with somebody. Say, hey, it's usually the low man on the pole. Yo, get over here, hold this fire escape. And there's fires and stuff dangling up above and all things going on. Because if that's that low, what happens?
12 feet in the air.
12 feet in the air. Now we'll get my ladders. I mean, you guys, we're talking minutes here to change the course of a fire. So you understand why cantilevers must be balanced. And if they have a release arm on them, isn't it always also an anti-theft device? Because can I pull it down if the release arm is engaged?
No.
So, a release arm releases the cantilever, drops by itself 2 to 3 feet per second, hits the ground, stays down, people self-evacuate, because how many people you want in the building when there's a fire? And if they can help themselves, do you want to have them wait till you guys get there? Get everybody out of the building. If you can self-evacuate, then you're going to use the fire escape for one of 2 things: to get back in the building or to get out of the building. The weight box in the back. Got a release arm on this. This is in Chicago. Release arm. And I was explaining, is the release arm working properly? No. So let's see if we can, because somebody bent a piece, but now you release it. 2 to 3 feet per second. Hits the ground and stays down. Is it a violent activity? Can you do this too many times on a cantilever? Or is it once every 5 years you limit how many times cantilevers come down? It's a violent activity. And what's the reason why they're 12 to 14 feet off the ground?
Trucks backing on.
And if you start seeing this, you can see how close they get. This wasn't staged, this just happened to happen right at the moment while we were doing this, and let's see how close. So if this cantilever was not balanced, which it is, and perfectly horizontal, how much room do they have, and can any truck driver see that thing up in the air when he's backing up?
No.
So now, notice this one that he's gonna back on. See the chain? See the false chain there? See somebody just wrapped a piece of chain and tied it up? Just to make it horizontal? Otherwise, if that was hanging lower, what would have happened with his truck backing into it?
We cleared it off the building.
It would just rip it. Okay? This is in Waltham, Massachusetts. You guys have a few of these around, don't you? Now, we were they were using this tower to train until the day I got there. Because when I got there, I started doing my hammer test, all the treads started falling. So it's just not, individuals that don't fix their fire escapes. And by the way, we do inspect towers free of charge. So if you guys have any training towers, we use it to do 2 things. We actually go there with some of you people and actually have you inspect your own training tower, just so you can use it as information. A lot of your training towers are in this kind of condition, inside and out. This is an inside shot right there, because you guys pour so much water down those towers. Look at all the rust. It needs air and water. What do you got plenty of on this tower? Rust. Rust. 1 inch of rust. Smashes. Crashes. These treads fell from a hammer test. Had it been you doing anything, just going up to save somebody, going up to check on somebody, going up to do anything, you fall through one of these, and these things occur, and I'll show you an event. This is a city hall. See all the missing treads over here? All the broken treads? This is a city hall.
That's from the mayor's office, it's okay.
Yeah, that's right to the mayor's office. The main issue too, that we're gonna be talking about today, guys, is that 97% of a fire escape is outside the building, and we can guarantee that. That's just any connection, we verify that there's no rust in that connection, and we change the bolt. If I do that, will you be satisfied that the structural part of the fire escape can be somehow certified to your liking, in lieu of a load test? Because I can still do a load test, I can even do a combination of the two, fix some bolts and load test the whole thing. But if I change the bolt and I can give you evidence that there's no rust in that connection, that thing has been refurbished to a like-new status, do I need a load test? Now, let's talk about, that's 97% of all fire escapes I will be able to identify with a violation. Guess what I can't see because I need an x-ray or I need to do exploratory work? How it ties into the building. We're gonna cover with you, there's only two ways that fire escapes are attached to buildings. Cemented into the building, and this is the veneer, this is the coarse. This is the structural, this is pretty. This is where it's tied in. Or it's through bolted somehow, with a plate on a wood structure. So if you ever see a lax screw on anything,
That's a problem.
you see an expansion bolt on anything, it's illegal.
That's a problem.
So it's either cemented into a pocket, or it's lax screw, with a through bolt and a plate on the backside. We're gonna cover that today. But how do I, on a 75-year-old building that you want me to inspect, how do I verify these connections without blowing this out? I call a mason in the area, so listen, I got this 10-story building, I've got a lot of veneer, I've got some rusty tiers coming down, so I'm seeing some activity. See the rusty tiers? So the guy goes, yeah, for about $250 to $500 a piece, I can blow open some areas there, and we can do some sampling to see if in the 75-year history of this building, was there any rainwater in the parapet wall that came down and somehow got in between the veneer and the structural and ate that. Because look how good the steel is out here. Look how bad it is inside there. I can't see that without an x-ray or without exploratory work, and he's giving me a price, $250 to $500, because he's got to take it all apart, and then he's got to put it all back together. It's not an unreasonable cost, is it, for a mason to go there and blow this? Okay, now, if I take a connection 5 inches away, and I drill a 3/4 hole, 12 inches deep, 8 to 12 inches deep, and I put a new Hilti epoxy bolt down there, with permits and the whole thing, and then I clip back to this thing with an angle clip, and I clip back and I bolt this connection, so I keep the original, right, and I clip this thing back and it costs me $50 to $100 per connection. Which one is cheaper for the client and less destructive to the building? Right, so I can nullify this concern of yours about this very old historic building by doing what? Blowing $250 to $500 per support to satisfy you with photographs? Or can I just nullify it by simply duplicating the connection simply because of age? Because do I need to do this on a 25-year-old building? But a 75-plus-year-old building, I got my mason quote. He wants almost $5,000 to basically confirm all these connections. Or for $50 to $100, I'm putting new epoxy bolts and I'm still keeping the originals. I just let sleeping dogs lie. Because do I care about that connection and what condition it is inside the building anymore if I have a duplicate connection next to it, which is a 3/4 round rod, 8 to 12 inches deep epoxy bolt protected by a Hilti insurance policy? Will that satisfy you? So 97% of the fire escape I can prove to you is free of rust and rebolted. And this stuff into the wall, I've chosen to go the cheaper route for the client, and I've duplicated the connection, not fixed it. I will always fix it on the outside. I'm gonna it's gonna be packed correctly. The veneer. It's not gonna be spalling or anything. It's gonna be packed and sealed. But do I care? Do I have to verify inside anymore if I got an epoxy bolt 5 inches away? Will that satisfy you? Right? Because do I still need to load test it? If I've changed every bolt on the fire escape, that's 97% of the fire escape, and the 3% of the unknown, I went in and duplicated every connection, do I need a load test? No. Because in lieu of a load test, nationwide, a certified repair is what you want, and you want them to go out of their way to prove to you that this thing is safe for who? The occupants. The next guys are the firefighters. Have I done that by basically changing the bolts on the fire escape, reconnecting it back to the building, and if the guy doesn't wanna do either one, because, dude, I've been painting this fire escape for 5 years, all those bolts are pristine, my grandpa had a bolt factory, and I used the best bolts back in 75 years ago. What do you say? And I just painted it. I do not want to drill holes in my building, I do not wanna change any of these bolts, because my grandpa gave me every one of these.
Load tested.
Load test, we're all done. Give me a certified repair that some engineer is gonna go out of his way to confirm to me that the occupants and my family are gonna be safe, with no disclaimers, and he's gonna sign this confidence test, or give me a load test. So has anything changed since you guys came in this morning? Right? We're just describing more now what is a critical examination. What is a certified repair? And are you gonna be using load tests? Is this a class that start making you guys do load tests? Or is this a class that basically start teaching what a certified repair could really mean? Because some people are not going out of their way to do what with you guys during the inspection phase? Talk to you about it. They're not going out of their way to convince you that everybody else does. Sprinkler guys go out of their way to prove to you that the sprinkler was properly installed. Smoke detector guys go out of their way to make sure that everything is properly installed. Central station alarm systems they go out of their way to prove that the thing was, you got plans and conversations and, my God. Somebody doing anything on fire protection on a building, they can't move ahead until they sat down with you and did what? Convince you of what? That the plan that they have is acceptable to you. Has anybody ever come down and provided you with a plan of what's acceptable to repair this fire escape? And how they're gonna watch it and sign off on it before you even get there? Well, that's what fire escape inspections are. Confidence tests need oversight. Nobody's gonna pull a permit and repair a fire escape without an engineer oversight. They don't need city official oversight. The permit process is the city official oversight, but they're not gonna go there and check in. You're gonna allow fire escapes to be repaired under engineer oversight, because an engineer who's signing off, who did the original inspection, now must have 3 to 5 visits to watch the fire escape being repaired, so he can sign off on the end with a confidence test that says what? Fire escape has been certified repaired. Here's my signature, no disclaimers. And all that so that his owner, or his client, doesn't get a load test thrown on him too. You guys got a lot of power. This is what verification looks like. Because sometimes people say, no, just verify the connection. Okay, I gotta drill a bunch of holes in your wall. I gotta send this little snake down there and take photographs. Right? If I take the same hole that I did it 5 inches away, isn't it the same process? Why verify a hole only to fill it with cement after the fact, when if I can just go 5 inches away, put a new hole in there, mechanically fasten it back to the original connection, which is better for the client? Destructive, investigative activity, or that's a big monster hole? Because sometimes 3/4 is not enough. It doesn't hit the steel. I can't see any steel. Guess what I have to do? I have to do another hole next to it and open it up a little bit more so I can get my little snake down there. What's quicker, what's faster? This, or a hole, the same 3/4 drill, 5 inches away? And in some cases, you can unify all the connections by getting underneath a 12-foot platform, taking a 3x3 piece of angle, with holes every 2 feet or every 3 feet. And basically, we just put a epoxy bolt down on the whole angle and make it come up and tuck underneath all the supports and do what? Wherever it tucks, we put another clip to the support, clip back to the angle. Now you've unified the entire platform. In order for that platform to come down, what has to happen? Wall has to give. Do I have a problem when the wall gives? When the wall gives, dude, we're all done. Okay? So that's what the inside of these things look like during an investigation. Can you decipher some of this stuff, or you have to have a little bit of expertise? So why go through this? Why do I want to go burying and digging into a hole when I can just duplicate the connection and it's cheaper and faster for the client? Okay? These are the plates on the inside. Now, just so you know, on average, depending on what region of the country you are, 95%, 98% of all the connections, cement are just through the veneer, right into the block walls. Only a few old mills will have through bolts that come all the way through. But this is the type of plating I'm expected to see on a wood structure. Okay? This is what I expect to see on the inside of a wall. If I pull a hole through the sheetrock, I'm expecting to see a plate on the inside that goes out to a bolt and a nut on the outside on a wood structure. Okay? Live load testing. I already told you what it was, 4x4, 1,600 pounds, and what can I do? I can put sandbags, water bags that equal 1,600 pounds. I can also pull a truck underneath it, and then I can use this system in that day, this is actually the Farscape in California. I needed 3,000 pounds. I'm already at 2,986, so I'm lifting the tail of a truck to give me 3,000 pounds. Because I didn't want to bring 3,000 pounds, I put 3,000 pounds on the ground. You can use anything you want, even a truck. You pick up the tail of a truck and you just start lifting it. And you exert 3,000 pounds. All with engineer oversight. You got to take measurements. I got a load test. This is a load test. For the first, in a 30-second trial, aside from all the photographing and all the measurements I got to take, 40% of the load is put on in the first 10 minutes. If nothing creeps, pulls away, or deflects more than 3/16 of an inch. 3/16 of an inch. I can then apply the remaining 60% of the load for another 20 seconds and take measurements again, and it can't deflect more than 3/16 of an inch. Otherwise it fails the test. That's a load test. 10 stories, repeat that 10 times. Because you can't load 10 stories all at the same time. So here we are, lifting the tail. So you can use anything you want that's weights on the ground, engineer oversight. And what's this load test for? For these hidden violations. Because when you're load testing a fire escape, 97% of it is got all rebolted, all redone. Am I worried about anything on the outside of a fire escape when I'm load testing it? But I am worried about what I didn't see because I couldn't open it up. I couldn't see it. But on this fire escape, a lot of the photographs you saw was us verifying the connections into the wall. Missing pieces. I showed you earlier on we have missing pieces. Who falls to the ground? Occupants, and who else might fall to the ground? Firefighters. Firefighters. You guys fall through fire escapes? Yep. Here's a New York case that we were on that's since settled. The uniqueness about this case is that the firefighter went up and 3 of these treads gave way because he was, I think, he was venting, and he fell through, landed here, went back up. I believe there was a woman and a child up there, and that window brought that people down, but then when he finally got down to the ground, he had severely injured his back and his spine, 27 years old, no longer a firefighter. The uniqueness of this case is that he was on disability and, and leave, but he sued the owner directly. Because this wasn't a accident that was, a job-related accident. This was negligence, and that's what he tried to prove. He tried to prove that the owner had not repaired that fire escape in over 25 years, so that this was negligence that got him to be hurt. And when we did the investigation, we proved that when we got there, the whole fire escape was still condemned, except for those 3 treads, 2 years after the accident. So when we got there, treads were falling. I was going up to go investigate those 3 treads, and the fire escape was falling on me. So we were videotaping this and recording this all the time. So very quickly after this case, they settled, because when we brought this information back, the owner didn't want to expose the rest of his assets, and they settled pretty quickly. This right here is going to tell you the life of a connection. I think I already proved to you that connections basically start from the inside out. This is a typical tread. And when you put the fire escape 75 years ago with rivets or bolts, the fact that you have it encapsulated with paint, paint's the first thing that gives at joints. So when you have a painted fire escape and it heats up and it does this, and it cools down and it does this, what's the first thing to crack and split? Paint. So that's how water gets in here. If you don't get to it and stay on top of it, that's when it penetrates. So a lot of times you guys are walking up fire escapes that have like 1/8 of rust in every connection, and it's still solid. You know why it's solid? Because it's got a shaft of a bolt or shaft of a rivet still holding it there, and it's eating it. And you're not going to fall 50 years ago. Okay? 50 years ago to 75 years ago when this was occurring, no one was falling. "25 years ago, this is what a 1/4 inch of rust looks like on a rivet or a bolted connection. So 25 years ago, it was at this point. And when you have a connection that's this tight, that's now a 1/4 inch away, and the only thing that's holding my clip from falling is this piece of shaft, and you keep bringing me to the edge, what eventually happens? So the reason why none of your fellow firefighters fell 50 to 75 years ago, because the shaft was saving them. 25 to 50 years ago, the shaft is still saving them. Today, and into the future, what do you have? Is there any shaft left? So this is just timing. It's not like all of a sudden fire escapes are a big issue for you. No, no. 25, 50, 75 years ago, it was an issue, but nobody was repairing them. And all of a sudden now, we've run out of shaft. And when you guys step on these things, when occupants step on these things, they're stepping on a 75-year-old connection that's been what's called rust jacking. They've just been pushing out, just like ice jacks things apart, rust jacks things apart. A 1/4 inch of rust will grow to 1 inch. And this is what happens. This is how people are getting hurt nowadays. This is how much rust we found 2 years after the incident. And I didn't do a hammer test here, this was a foot test. So that case settled for the firefighter. Very quickly, let's take a look at the wall. If anybody has any questions right now, because this is sort of, we're getting to the tail end of it. We'll briefly go over some of the tags. We'll answer any and all questions right now. Does anybody have any questions so far? Because I'm just going to show you how fire escapes are built. And I already did speak to it very quickly through this part. But does anybody have any questions now that I could answer? Either an event that occurred or something that I've said so far that they agree or disagree with? Anybody have any questions so far?
I have a question regarding the tags. The tags, are they coming from an association, or is it something, I realize that it's just you more or less have it made up?
Yes.
Standard measurement.
Yeah.
Okay, which is fine. What had to start somewhere? What, are there other companies issuing these tags?
Nobody else is